Hello and welcome to Center of Weirdness, the very weird podcast about very weird stuff, but it's mostly about weird and sometimes spooky TV episodes. That's why I was doing that sort of spooky voice there. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Spooky Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, why do I get the nickname and you don't? Josh Goblin.
I don't know. That's Josh Goblin was retired with our old podcast, and now for Center of Weirdness, we're doing something different. I'm just a regular Josh.
Here's regular Josh doing a voice like an asshole.
So if my spooky voice and Spooky Skinner's inclusion didn't clue you in, we are starting our spooky season. Yes, it's it's the end of August, but beginning of September. But you know what? We're still going to roll with it. The spooky season has, I think, officially begun. I mean, I went to. We were recording this in middle of August, and I went to a haunted house last night. So
the candy's out in the stores. Their spirit Halloweens are open. It's time. It's time. And plus, we only do an episode every 2 weeks now, so we have to spread it out to get all that content.
True. I was gonna, before we get into the episode, which is kind of a nice bridge between the summer season into the spooky season. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're right, Spirit Halloween stores are open. I think the first one opened in New Jersey this year in like late July. So like, obviously everybody complained about Christmas creep, about, you know, Christmas starting before Thanksgiving, people thinking about all that stuff before we had even had like Thanksgiving, sometimes Christmas stuff coming out before Halloween even happened. And this is essentially creepy creep. Like it is, we are getting more and more Halloween-y stuff. The thing that I went to was a summer scare event. So, you know, it's wrapping up at the end of August.
So right creepy clowns in bikinis?
Yes, basically. But it's wrapping up at the end of August, right when you know, the other horror stuff starts. I think Universal, their Horror Night stuff kicks off the first weekend of September. Other haunted houses start opening up like the second or third week of September into October. So obviously those are business decisions because the more people that go, they make more money. I totally get that. And I'm sure that that's what's facilitating creepy creep. But what do you think about that? Do you have like an issue with that happening?
I wish the temperatures would drop when it showed up.
Agreed. Although, to be fair, I live in Southern California, so even when it's Halloween day, it's still sometimes like 85 or 90 degrees.
See, that's different there. Like, I was at a store today, and there's some Halloween stuff out and fall stuff out, and then I walk out, and it's 85 degrees. Cooler than it was. Cooler than it's been in a lot of places, but like, my mind immediately makes me want to go outside and have that crisp air.
I agree.
Which I don't have, but
I will say that that's been the one like negative is a strong word because there are lots of negatives about living in a place where there's, you know, millions and millions of people very tightly packed together, like any big giant city. But in Southern California, I think that is one of the things that I have liked the least about living here is not getting that like crispness in the air during the fall season. Like
it's so good.
We sort of get it like in the winter time, like when it starts to get into like December, January. Those get pretty cold, but it's not the same as like that kind of just verging on chilly. Like when we go to a pumpkin patch out here and it's, you know, 90 degrees, it's kind of a bummer a little bit.
I feel like there'd be a lot of bugs in that case.
It's not that bad, but it just still, it doesn't feel quite right. Like you get a sunburn when you go to the pumpkin patch and you're just like, well, this kind of sucks.
I feel like the lack of negative reaction to the creepy creep is there's not the obligations that Halloween puts upon you that Christmas does or Thanksgiving does.
You're right.
And I think people, one, a lot of people have worked retail during Christmas and fucking hate Christmas music or whatever because of that.
Yeah.
Two, Americans have the stupidest time for Thanksgiving. Your holidays are back to back. So it's like, who could give a fuck that it's 1 month difference, but still.
Hey, but I love that. I love that last little corridor of the year where you're like going from Halloween stuff into Thanksgiving into Christmas. I dig that like whole little space
Oh,
of time.
I want to pitch you something else that every other country does.
What's
A
that?
holiday every month. So you can't have made a conscious decision that to put a holiday, one that everyone has to take off in every month. And I think there's like America needs it so badly. They will not do it because production and whatever the fuck else they think is actually going to matter in the world. You know what really matters? Millions of people dying. Wow, that really hurt how much you could fucking staff everything. But who cares?
Sure.
Right? 500 people a day still. Who cares? Who cares? Move on, move on, move on. A holiday a month, great idea. My pitch, and I put this on to, did an episode of Deep in Bear Country with our friend Phil Gonzalez on a Tooth Fairy book.
Okay.
Which is kind of boring. It's mostly about the inflation pricing of teeth. That the Tooth Fairy is this fictional character, this well known in North America character, right?
Yeah.
But it's holiday agnostic. You really can't make merchandise on it because it's personal to when the kid loses teeth, unless we pick one day a year where the Tooth Fairy comes to every kid and they give them all their teeth all at once.
Oh.
And then we have that Tooth Day. It's a Tuesday for sure. And we could sell merch. We could have the Tooth Fairy at malls, and we could, parents wouldn't have to remember their kid lost a tooth during the day when they're so busy at work, so busy at work. And then you would have just like this fucking jar full of teeth, and that's fun.
I mean, I think you have pitched a brand new scary movie character situation here. Like it's kind of like The Purge, but it's a Tooth Fairy Day.
Yes, every kid has to eat, and like just imagine all the kids who hadn't lost a tooth that year and are desperate to get rid of one more baby tooth before the holiday hits, or they get nothing.
Counterpoint: you would have kids who are terrified to come up on Tooth Fairy Day, and they're like, "I don't want to give away my teeth."
They pull it right out of their head.
That's disturbing, and it fits perfectly with us moving from summer into the scary season. This week on the show, we are covering Salute Your Shorts. Summertime feeling vibes of this show. We know it, we love it, but we are covering Salute Your Shorts episode 2 of season 1, which originally aired on June 5th, 1991. This was about 2 months before my brother was born. So, and he just turned 32, I think. So it's a very long time ago. But yeah, we're covering the Zeke the Plumber episode. Now, I think Amazon calls this the ghost story, but when you look at it on IMDb, it just calls the episode Zeke the Plumber. So who knows what it's actually called?
Yeah, not sure about that. And like Amazon puts it in season 2, which, like you said, you very specifically remember it being season 1, but also for a second episode ever, they seem to sure assume you know who these characters are.
Yes. I mean, it is. So the first episode is very much about like setting up who these people are. And I think that there's enough of an archetype for each of them that you kind of get it. I mean,
one kid fucking has a computer on his lap, so he's the science kid.
Yes, he is. That's Sponge. So I'll give you the character names because you might not have caught them all because again we don't.
I got one.
We don't spend a lot of time with them, with the exception of Budnick, who is sort of he's the antagonist, the sort of heel to all the characters. He's a good kid for the most part, but he's deep down he's a good kid, but he's kind of the little sort of bully.
With the worst haircut I've ever seen in my absolute life.
I mean, this is early 90s, so we had some questionable hair choices, but played by Danny Cooksey, who had like a kind of a baller 91, because this show started where he's one of the stars, and then he's also in Terminator 2 as John Connor's friend, who kind of stops the T-1000 from finding John Connor at the arcade. So like he really does he does a lot to save the future of our planet. But
as well as being Montana Max on Tiny Toon Adventures, which was a big
yes.
deal at the time, but has been completely overshadowed by Animaniacs in history.
Yeah, that's weird because I was always more of a Tiny Toons fan.
Like, I was a little old for Tiny Toons, but Tiny Toons was fucking everywhere. Like, it changed. Like, every show all of a sudden tried to become Tiny Toons.
Yeah, he was he was on that show around the same time. He did the voice of Deacon Logan on the Bill and Ted cartoon, which I think is something we might have to cover at some point.
I think so too. I remember it being terrible.
But yeah, so he had a pretty good series of years there. He's also on an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And did some voiceover work in like the Little Mermaid show, the 101 Dalmatian show, Hey Arnold.
I bet he played a bully
Probably.
with that laugh.
He does play he does play like this weird kind of bully character on Hey Arnold, and then turns out he's like actually is a good guy. So pretty similar to the kind of the character that he's playing in this show.
Like his haircut is that he has a bowl cut on front and a mullet in the back.
Hey man, that's I mean, you know, that is business in the front, party in the back. That's like the exact.
That's affordable in the front. That's like that's not even business class. That's just like coach.
That's coach in the front. Speaking of mullets, did you see those? Did you see those kids who won at like the recent like mullet like championship? You know what I'm talking about?
I know. I saw the links to it. I was on vacation at the time, and I thought, I'm not putting myself through this.
If you want some really good times, look up the USA Mullet Championships. They just had their like kid division, and it's pretty incredible. Like there's a great little article that I just looked up their Twitter account, and it says the 2022 USA Kids Mullet Championship is stacking up to be one of the great battles in hair history. 8-year-old mullet boy says he'd blow his winnings on a go-kart.
Of course he would.
Pretty amazing. Some of the names too are pretty incredible. Like some of these kids, and they look amazing. Like there's a kid named Epic. And his hair is pretty epic, like I have to say. Man, yeah, all of these kids look awesome. Like I have to say, they're pretty cool looking.
So you're saying that Budnick is the best character on the show?
I mean, there is a kid who looks like he is very similar haircut to Budnick in this, and he's a finalist. So I think Budnick would have done pretty well if he had joined the mullet championships.
Now I have a question for you back to Sponge, who, like I said, has a quote unquote portable computer in which absolutely isn't portable, but
it's
you
like
know,
a Mac 2 or whatever, one of those things. Yeah.
I feel like one of the sad parts of life growing up watching cartoons is to realize I was never going to have a science kid friend, because every friend group or anything like group of stereotypes on a cartoon or young person show, there's one kid who wore a lab coat and loved science and like calculated things. And like, I didn't know a single science kid. No kid I knew had a lab coat that they wore for fun.
Yeah, no, not like that. I mean,
it's one of those disappointments in life that if I just knew enough kids, I'd have the sport kid friend, I'd have the snack kid friend, and I'd have the science friend.
I think TV shows and also the Burger King Kids Club set us all up for failure about what our friend groups would look like.
And so they all kind of look like you.
Yeah, that is the problem. It's like when you like want like the cool kid with the cool glasses, or you want the kid who like knows science stuff, or the cool kid who has that combination bowl cut mullet haircut.
Bullet.
The bullet. That's what it is. It's the bullet. So Budnick is our kind of like lead of this episode, but also sort of the main antagonist, I guess, of the show. We have his friend and kind of his sort of muscle in his goon squad, Donkey Lips, who's a big guy. With a slight lisp. So now I'm kind of questioning, is that nickname like a comment on the way he speaks, which I guess it must be.
I would assume so, but also if that sounded like the kid actually did have that speech impediment, so that is mean.
Yes,
He
does.
A show in '91 could have called him fat shit. So like anything's possible. Like there are worse names they could have and shaming they could have done to him.
That is true.
Get over here, fat shit.
Hey, big body. Yeah, that is true. That would be pretty shitty. So we have Sponge, which we already talked about. We have Michael, who is sort of the everyman character. If I remember correctly, the first episode of the series is from his perspective of him arriving at camp. And I think a lot of the other kids kind of already knew each other because they had been there the previous year. And so it's him sort of getting to know all the people in the group, becoming like the group of friends. And then those are our boys, and then we have 3 girls, because we have to sort of balance it out a little bit. We have Dina, who is kind of you don't really get much from her in this one, but she is kind of like I guess like kind of a bougie girl, sort of like she's rich, I think. If I remember correctly from the show, and she's just kind of like a little above it all, like very sort of, holier than thou kind of person. You've got Zizi, who I don't really remember much about. I think she's kind of a sporty girl, sort of, but then Telly, who is the basketball player, is also sort of more sporty, and that kind of plays out in this episode, like her desire to not be a kind of a prissy girl, basically. And she might be one of the more famous people from this show, Venus de Milo Thomas. She was on, like, I think 2 seasons of Family Matters, and she was on Sister Sister, and so she's had quite a career after. And then you have their sort of main camp counselor, Kevin Ugg Lee, which is also a shitty nickname.
Does he call himself Ugg though? Like,
I mean, he responds to Ugg throughout the show, and he does not tell them to not call him that.
All right, so I don't know if it's been clear, but this is one of Josh's favorite shows ever, and I did not hear of it before. Like the first time he mentioned to me was the first time I've ever heard the words even mentioned in my life.
It
like,
was
zero. This is not Air in Canada as far as I know, or I was too old for it. It had like no familiarity with this or anything about it.
It's been fun doing Center of Weirdness with you, because like with the movie stuff, when we were doing Predictocast, it was a little bit different because those, it wouldn't matter sort of what era we came from those, because we didn't have any, like, the whole point of that show was picking movies we'd never seen, so we didn't have any connection to them. We could just kind of feel them out from where we are right now. But this show has been weird because some of the stuff that we've covered, like, I have known about, or I did, have fond memories of, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, like Goosebumps, like this. And they don't have the same connective tissue with you, where you are like drawing on these memories. Like, I could watch this episode and go, yes, this is clearly for children, but I also remembered pretty much every single beat of this episode as we were watching it. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember exactly where this is going. And yeah, I can watch it and go, it's for kids. It's not the best thing in the world, but I still have like a fondness for it. I still think that it's, fairly well made for some low budget thing that they, shot with a bunch of not really, non-major actors, just in some camp upstate somewhere. I mean, who knows if they shot this in New York or in California, but I don't know. I think there's I don't know. I think it's not necessarily my favorite show of all time, as you said.
No, it's your favorite show of all time. This
it was absolutely one of my favorite shows when it was on in the 90s when I was watching it. Like, for sure. I was like 7 years old watching the show, so of course it was like
you're just watching the show and watching them, and then you put back in the VHS blank check, and that's like your entire life.
I mean, I did watch Blank Check a lot as a kid.
So this isn't me cursing the show because I think there's some good things about it. I like how it's shot. I like how it's shot actually in the woods at dark, so it gives it some at the end. So
it's not a set, which is nice.
Not a set, but like I came from like especially in the States where I wasn't around, like the boom of Nickelodeon Disney afternoons, like shows starring kids instead of cartoons. Like that's entirely after me. Like I look at that stuff. I'm like, oh, that's for fucking babies. Like that's what the babies behind me watched. Like that shit looks like shit. Like, all the shows look like absolute shit to me. And I couldn't believe any kids like it. But I also thought about that about Power Rangers. And when Power Rangers became nostalgic and adults liked it, that was very confusing to me. I'm like, that show looked like shit.
That's the one that like that's one of those that I watched and enjoyed it at the time. But I feel like now if I were to, I don't have the nostalgia for that for whatever reason, and so I feel like if I were to go back and watch it again, I would just cringe throughout the whole thing.
I think there's a certain magic to being 15 and watching what the 8-year-olds behind you are watching, where it no matter what it is, it looks like the worst thing you've ever saw. It's like being a boomer for everything.
I mean, yeah.
Like the second for whatever is for younger kids than you when you turn 14, 15 looks so fucking bad to you. And I like, now to me it's just another kids show. I've seen kids worse shows with Holly and stuff, but like I just remember like when this like the Afraid of the Darks and all this stuff started up, I'm like, holy shit, this looks awful. Like who does this how does this appeal to any kid whatsoever? These kids are all annoying and it looks like shit. But now it's like, oh no, it's fine. Like I like little things it does. It's weird that it's shot and time the shooting of the camera and how it's everything set up and the angles they use and the kind of jokes and the timing of the jokes are every one of those shows that had a laugh track, and this doesn't. So it makes it feel more real, but there are points where they say a joke and they pause for a laugh that never comes.
Yeah, there are some moments where like you could easily see a laugh track being inserted into the show. Like maybe they were planning to do it and then for whatever reason they decided not to.
That was my question, because if it changed as the show got further on, because if this is the second episode and it's filmed early, perhaps they haven't made that decision yet, so they had the kids hold in for the punchlines.
I think you might be right. I think maybe they were thinking about it and they weren't sure, because I don't remember I remembered the story beats, but I didn't remember that kind of pacing. So I am curious if maybe there was the idea of like we'll put laughter in here, but we just don't know if it's going to happen or not yet.
For the specific example I'm thinking about is at one point one of the campers puts a line of toothpaste around her bed to keep away ghosts and spirits, and they're like, why are you doing that? And she's like, I read something, there's something in toothpaste that keeps away evil.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, but I don't know what it is, but 4 out of 5 doctors agree, and that's a joke on the commercials at the time. And then she pauses, and then the other one goes, which doctor? Pause. That's right. Which doctors agree? And it's like, and there's a pause for every point for you to take it in, but also like like the first one's supposed to be a giggle, then a laugh, and the third one's supposed to be the belly laugh, right?
Yeah.
And the spots are all there for it because they take that breath, and it's just like, oh, all I hear is the lack of soundtrack right now. I can feel it. Like the fact that there's like, not only is there not a there's not a laugh track, but there's no boom, ba-dum, bow, bow, like telling you that they're joking. It's just some like cricket sounds.
I would enjoy if this
Literally.
had if this had a Seinfeld bass beat on it. That would be pretty great. But so basically, what this episode is that everybody is telling ghost stories.
We only hear one though.
We do only hear one. I kind of forgot, like, when it was happening, I was like, oh, this is happening very quickly. I assumed that there would be, like, someone tells a ghost story and Budnick's like, that sucks. I'll tell you the real, like, scary story. And then he tells the story. But, like, it doesn't even get to that. He just immediately launches into the story of Zeke the Plumber. And basically, he lays it out as Zeke used to clean the toilets at the camp. But he didn't have a nose because when he was in the army, it had been bitten off by a parrot while he was in the Philippines. I don't know if a parrot biting off your nose would completely destroy your sense of smell, but maybe it would. I can't.
It might dull your olfactory sensors.
Yeah, I guess it
Fucking
would.
Dinosaurs.
That's true. I guess, if that parrot really got in there and was digging around and
looking for its crackers,
just ripped it open. I mean, I guess it could potentially damage it. But as a result, Zeke couldn't smell anything, and somehow there was a gas leak at the camp. I don't remember that part of the story. I don't know if it said that he did something that caused it or if there just happened to be one. But as a result, he lit a match while he was cleaning the toilets, I guess. But I don't really know why he would light a match
because he's burning incense.
Yes, sure. He's trying to make it not smell like shit, I guess. And as a result, he explodes. And it completely destroyed him. And now the rumor has it is that he lurks around the camp. The ghost of Zeke lurks around the camp. He wears a weird human-like mask over his face because it to cover his like damaged face, and he uses his plunger to
his plumber sword.
His plumber sword. That's right. He uses his cursed plunger to suck things out of kids' heads, secrets and memories and all kinds of stuff. So very, he comes into their dreams, I guess, very Freddy Krueger like.
He does a thing where he says, I can see your thoughts. I can see inside your head. But
none of these things are real, so it doesn't really matter.
It just happens that even though I don't think Budnick mentioned that version of his powers.
Yes.
Everyone goes with it when they dream of him.
Yeah. Telly and Michael both have dreams of Zeke where they picture him exactly the same, and
he has exact same powers, which were not hinted at in the story to them.
I mean, we could just call that shortcut storytelling for the show. But yeah, I think that is very funny if they had been describing like, oh yeah, he looks exactly the same, because they are referencing Nightmare on Elm Street. They even mention that he's the Freddy Krueger of custodians, coming into people's dreams. But like, it is very funny.
Was Freddy Krueger also a custodian to a degree?
Yeah, he kind of was. He worked at he was like a groundskeeper, right? I think.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sure it changes bit by movie, but
yeah, Freddy Krueger also didn't have a nose, and the parents were not responsible for burning him up. He just lit a match to cut down on some shit smell and blew himself up.
But like the true, like, they are worried in their dreams when they meet him. Not too worried. They're all very even when they meet him. Like, their main character just talks to him in a very bored voice.
There should be more terror involved, I guess. But
he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Hey, that's cool. Could you just keep this between us?" Like, he just talks to him like he's a buddy who's working on a toilet next to his bed.
I will say that is I think the fault of the actor. He's just a young guy. He's not maybe the best actor, but I think that whole sequence, I don't think that Telly's is that scary, but I think that the Michael one is pretty creepy. Would be scary, I think, for a kid
I think
watching
because
that.
it's lit next to your bed, and he's coming at you when you are kind of bleary eyed when you wake up.
Yes.
Versus like, oh, he took me to a ballroom and I hate being prissy. That's not anyone's like. That's not a recognizable fear.
Yeah,
It
I
just
think
it just goes with her stereotype, which is is a stretch. But like the real fear of is some dude who can see your thoughts and you're that age is fucking like he's gonna tell everybody who in his friend group whacks off to who.
Yeah, yeah. So basically that night, Michael, he wakes up to find Zeke standing next to his bed, where before there were bunks, but now there is nothing but a toilet.
Which itself is scary.
It's very scary. And he is plunging away, and he pulls out a wadded up, disgusting bundle, which is Michael's stuffed animal, Harry the hippo. And he says that he's going to tell everyone, or Michael asks him not to tell everyone about it. And of course,
very even-headedly.
yeah, and
like they're old friends.
This leads Zeke to pull up a megaphone and call out that Michael has this hairy hippo doll, which he sleeps with and, sucks his thumb and everything. And he gets a little freaked out by it, and he says that he wants to see what else is inside his head. So he puts the plunger on his face. And this causes Michael to wake up, and he throws out his hairy hippo doll because I guess it, scares him or something that people will find out. But he just throws it in the garbage can where anyone can see it the next day.
And then the next day, like the bully Budnick's just like, yeah, you talked about your stuffed animal out loud last night when you were sleeping, and we all know anyways.
Yeah,
and his life isn't ruined,
so
no one really cares.
It doesn't quite work. And so the next day, like Budnick kind of ribs Michael about it. Also cuts a fart that apparently destroys the entire room.
Someone should have light a match.
And this leads to Telly also falling asleep and having a dream. Like you already mentioned, she says as Zeke shows up that he's there to grant wishes, and she's like, I would like to play professional ball. And which again, this is a lesson for kids to be clear and concise in your speech when you're talking to a genie or to someone who will grant you wishes, because they will twist it and they will turn it into something that is not what you want. As was featured in a recent storyline on the What We Do in the Shadows TV series, where I think it was Nandor asked for a huge penis. They had to be very specific with the djinn on what they wanted, because otherwise it would have turned out very badly for everyone.
Never use slang. Like if you just call becoming a professional basketball player playing pro ball.
Yes.
Or, like maybe think it through. I know you're asleep. I know you're tired, but still, like, slang is not for bargaining with the Fae. It's not for bargaining with genies. Not for filling out official paperwork.
That's right. You have to be very concise, because otherwise you will not get what you want.
Right.
But he takes her to this fancy ball where she's in a fancy dress, and he says basically she's trapped there forever, and she just might as well enjoy it and dance. And she, wakes herself up saying, I have to get out of this ball. And then someone should have responded, were you dreaming that you were a hamster?
There's a lot of things they should have done, but her greatest fear going to a dance that is completely empty, that she has to wear a Philly dress, just There's no kid watching this who's like, "Yep, that's it. That's me."
I will give them credit though, because this is fucking 91, and they have a character who is a girl who is more interested in sports, who is not about the sort of frilly dress life. And I imagine, and is played by a black actor. I imagine that could have been very helpful for some kids out there who were
It could have been,
more
but
interested in sports and who were less interested in like putting on fancy dresses and going to these like fancy dances and stuff, and like didn't feel comfortable doing it even though they felt like they had to.
I think it would have been more effective if the room wasn't empty.
Maybe.
So you could have people judging her or calling her.
Sure.
Like,
Yes. Okay. Maybe so. If they'd had like, I mean, but again, this cast is not very big. Even when they're doing the scary stories at the beginning, there's like 3 other kids in the background of the shot who say nothing, and I think that's the same thing. The same 3 kids when they're in the like the little rec room later on, like the next day. So not a huge cast, but like I give them credit for at least trying something, like trying to do something a little different. And so finally, Michael, who's tired of getting shit on by Budnick, challenges him to stay out in the woods for a whole night at the exact spot where Zeke died. And he's like, fine, I'll do it. And if I do it, then you have to walk around with Harry the Hippo for a day, and Telly has to wear a dress for the day, which is weird. And then, everyone will know what wusses you are. And I think this is a thing that was like a big deal in TV shows in the early 90s. Kids being called a wuss.
I was also wondering, like, if someone bet you something and you'd have to behave based on their bet and you were just both 2 kids, I don't think you fucking have to do it.
Yeah, you don't. You can say, fuck off, kid. I'm not doing that.
Like, he's not bigger than the rest of them. Just, like, you have to wear a dress. Or, here's the other thing, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But they all agree. They're like, whatever, fine. And they have developed a plan to scare Budnick. So everybody has their own little thing. Donkey Lips decides to get in on this as well. He was going to sit with Budnick, but he brought the wrong kind of chips. Budnick specifically requested Ruffles, which that's some interesting product placement, but he did not bring them, and so he's pissed off at him and calls him a 10. What does he call him? 10-ton tuna?
Something like that, yes.
It's like, Jesus. So, because I guess in the 90s we could just get away with our fat jokes all the time. So he also decides to be involved in this, and then Ugg comes in and also conspires with the campers to get back at Budnick, but he says he has his own thing, but he definitely wants to get involved. So everybody kind of has their own thing. They give Donkey Lips a big jack-o'-lantern mask to put on and wander around into the woods to scare him. This just basically results in him bumping into things constantly, door frames, trees, everything, and falling down a bunch. So we cut back to him frequently, and he's just walking into things and falling down. The girls have all decided to put pantyhose on their heads like they're bank robbers, and or the creepy ghouls from Jacob's Ladder, and wander through the woods to attack Budnick. And then Michael and Sponge have built these fairly elaborate like stick frames that they have draped sheets over to look like big ghosts. And so they're all going to kind of go after him to try to scare him. And I guess, I don't know what if the girls had been successful, would Michael and Sponge just have thrown their shit in the garbage, or?
I think so. Just like, I don't think they thought it through. I mean,
no, they didn't come up with like a unified front. I feel like if they were unified in what they were going to do, it would have, I think it could have been more effective. But I guess Budnick was prepared for this. because he sets up a series of traps for whoever might come after him in the woods. Again, this was 91, so Home Alone was also pretty popular at this point in time. So he's setting up a lot of Kevin McAllister-esque traps to catch people, putting chips out they'll crunch them as they walk through, and shaking up a bunch of sodas and a tripwire and all kinds of things. And they proceed to try to scare him, but fail. He has set up a dummy for the girls to find, which is just a cantaloupe balanced on top of, I guess, a shirt that rolls off when they scare him, and they think that they have decapitated Budnick, which is pretty good. And Michael and Sponge, they get tripped up by the tripwire, and they get splashed with a lot of soda that has been shaken up. And Budnick thinks that he has won. He beat them all. He is the king of the world, and no one can scare him.
He's literally walking around the night in the woods, doing a evil cackling laugh.
Yeah, and wearing some bright green like zoot suit pants. I don't understand what this kid's outfit is, but it does not look like a camp outfit.
He is doing a zoot suit boogie.
He's got like these big like looks like black Doc Martens on with these like bright green pants and this black jacket, and it just like doesn't look like camp attire, but what do I know? And there's a noise off in the woods, and they tell him to go figure it out himself if he's so brave. And they head off, and he runs into Zeke the Plumber in the flesh, who is there to put his head in his bucket. Which is
it also is at least his is different than the dream versions of the same looking guy.
Yes. So it is interesting that this turns out to be a fake out. This, of course, is not the actual Zeke the Plumber. And there is one thing that I misremembered, and when we get to it, I will tell you what that is. But this is actually Ugg, dressed up like Zeke the Plumber. Still looks remarkably like the actual Zeke the Plumber that they both envision in their dreams, which I don't know how that's possible. But again, shorthand for storytelling. I'll give them that one. Also, I think it's a creepy costume. It's a weird sort of old man mask. If you've never seen Zeke the Plumber, look it up. This kind of has a bit of I think a cult following. This sort of character. There's an article on bloodydisgusting.com. Zeke the Plumber remembering the most traumatic episode of Salute Your Shorts.
I mean, it doesn't look unlike a actual low budget slasher movie.
No, for
monster.
Sure. It looks great. I mean, it's very creepy. It's very weird looking. It's kind of a strange one because it's an old man face with like gray hair and a big gray mustache, but then these like black hollow eyes where you can sort of catch the eyes of the person underneath. And then he also has a bloody bandage over the nose, which sort of doesn't make sense if it's a mask, but it just adds to the sort of uncanny, otherworldly effect. If you look for Zeke the Plumber, there are tons of Halloween costumes. There are people with Zeke the Plumber tattoos. Someone even made a really great Zeke the Plumber movie poster that looks very sort of reminiscent of The Burning or any of those types of like camp horror, and really good. I don't know who the artist is of that, but you can, if you look for it, you'll find it. But yeah, great. Like for whatever reason, this guy is weird looking enough to have grabbed the attention of a lot of probably kids who were my age at the time, who had like I guess felt like this was creepy enough that that they needed to. I mean, someone even made a fake little toy of him. Like, yeah, it's. I might have to buy some Zeke the Plumber merch.
I mean, it is from your favorite TV show of all time.
This is true. I do need to support my favorite show and make sure people know that I love it so much. They but yeah, so it turns out that this is Ugg. He makes a mistake and he says that he can smell Budnick's fear. And this, of course, lets Budnick know that this isn't really Zeke. I guess he thought maybe it was for a second, but he knows that it really isn't. But he still doesn't know that it's Ugg under the mask, which I think is kind of funny because, like, who else could it be? And he lures this fake Zeke into a trap where he is. His leg gets caught in a rope, and he's flung upside down and hung from a tree by his leg, not his neck, thankfully,
or his dick,
or his dick. That's right. And he kind of pulls the mask off and reveals that it's Ugg under there. Ugg, played by Kirk Bailey, who I'm just seeing online that he died earlier this year, back in March. He was only 59, which is kind of a bummer. Very young guy, and was apparently also in Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is I don't remember him from that movie, but that's a fun one. So if you've never seen that, watch Zeke the Plumber ep, and then go watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I think he was probably in the costume for the entire time. So every time Zeke showed up, it was probably Kirk Bailey in there, and he does a pretty good job. He has a creepy voice for the guy, and I think is kind of he gives off some menace, I think.
Yeah, I think he does. I think it's a lot of talking through a mask. It's very Bane-like, right?
Yeah,
but
sure. I was born in the toilet.
I wasn't ready for, not knowing the group dynamics, the fact that when it was revealed to be the camp counselor, that then Budnick would be worried that he had attacked the camp counselor, who was going to attack him.
Yeah, I think that this immediately results in Ugg's firing. Like, he does not get to grab a child and
say that he's gonna take his head off.
Yeah, and I'm gonna cut your head off and put it in my bucket. Like, I don't think you get to say that to a kid under your care and keep your job.
The woke mob will come for him.
But yeah, so he's hanging upside down, and Budnick's like, well, I need to go get a knife to cut you down. And he's like, all right, hurry up and do it. And Budnick wanders off to do this. And earlier in the episode, they allude to the fact that Budnick does not like spiders. He is a brave boy who likes to ridicule others, but he has a fear of spiders. And at this point, he wanders through a giant spider web and starts to freak out immediately about their spiders being all over him. And all of the other campers are hanging out, eating the food that that he brought for the night, laughing. And as he, cries out that he needs help, that he will give up anything, they come upon him and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. You're a coward. You're a wussy, just like you claimed that we were, and now you have to tell everybody at breakfast tomorrow that you're a baby and that you're scared of spiders." And like, I never understood this.
Or he could also say no.
Yeah, like, he could just say no. I'm not going to do that.
They were going to cheat, and then they were upset when he caught them cheating on scaring him.
Yeah.
And then he was bad for that. And then the spider thing is real weak for a oh god, we need him to cry about something really fast. So he walks into one spider web and all of a sudden he's ready to fold in half.
Yeah.
So it all comes just too quickly, and then the in theory good guys are just kind of dicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the fact that this is kids are all dicks, I guess.
Well, camps are full of just asshole kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much. I mean, my experiences weren't like I went to summer camp a couple times. The way this show plays out, it seems like they're there for the entire summer. Like they're there for months, which I think would be insane. I think I would be crazy. I think at that point, when I went, it was either for a week or like a long weekend. Like you would go for like a Thursday or Friday through like to the Sunday or something like that, or you would go from Sunday to Sunday. It was a pretty short period of time, all things considered, and
It
it
kind
was
of would suck. I'm sure these actually do happen, but it kind of sucks the idea of like you're finally out of school. We're gonna send you away from your shit. Now you have time to do stuff with it.
yeah,
Like, hey parents, you're assholes.
yeah. It was. I think if it's like for a week or two, that's fine. But yeah, if you shuffle your child off for the entire summer because you're just like, I don't want you around.
Which like that was a fun thing to say when you were in the for comedians and stuff. And they like, I can't wait to get rid of my kids. I hate my kids, but like
Yeah.
in reality, most parents don't hate their own children.
Yeah. I hate my children. I hate my wife.
Love golf, steak.
I love golf in my man cave.
Yes, that's very well adjusted. You're very funny.
I love steak. I love golf. I love my man cave, and I love my Jordan Peterson videos. And it's a real shame what they did to Andrew Tate, kicking him off Facebook.
Oh, first they took nothing off the menu but added Impossible meat to Cracker Barrel, and now this.
What are we doing as a country?
Man, they hate fake meat so much.
Yeah.
So much. They're so stupid.
Fake meat. And you can't, I mean, that just fake meat, fake American.
Yes, because this is, in the Constitution, it mentions meat a lot.
Yeah. They would.
The Declaration of Meat.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson wouldn't sign it until they went back in there and added a bunch of lines about a red meat.
He signed it with like the rib tip.
Yeah, he dipped that in. He threw out the quill and he just he pulled the T-bone out. And
one of the signatures on the Declaration of Independence is famous raid.
Signed in Ajou. They didn't even use ink.
It just stayed there.
But yeah, like I remember summer camp. We in one of our like old Patreon shows, we talked about summer camps. We talked about adult summer camps. But yeah, I don't remember ever being like there never being like a singular person like this. Like I remember there being, I remember there being guys that I thought were cool. Like, like, oh, that's a cool guy because they were a little older, And then I remember there being like it in hindsight, it's kind of weird, but there being, older counselors, like women counselors that younger boys were always following around because they had crushes on them. And it was just like, I don't know, that's a little weird. But yeah, I don't know. There was never a Budnick at my camp, which I'm grateful for.
Unless you were the Budnick. You had red hair.
Oh, that's true. And I did have a bullet. So
that's why you're so defensive of it.
That's right. I think it's a cool haircut. Shut up.
I can't. It's a shame they couldn't have him have a box of cigarettes.
No,
under his.
Yeah, he's definitely the kind of kid like. It's always funny when you get like these bad kids and then you realize like they're not really that bad because it's not like he's smoking or drinking or anything like that. So it's like he's probably fine.
Like he's not like he could beat them up while they sleep.
Yeah, he's not setting fires or anything. Like he's a normal enough kid that it's not too bad. But the next morning, Ugg is dead, hanging from the tree because the blood has pooled in his brain and he died. Not really, but it feels like that's what would have happened because it feels like it's not that late when they wrap all this up, and he's been hanging there for a couple hours. And he spots Donkey Lips in his jack-o'-lantern mask wandering towards him. And he, screams out because he expected it to be Budnick coming to cut him down, and it's not. And this is where
that doesn't seem scream worthy.
No, it isn't. And this is where I misremembered. I misremembered two things, or three things actually. As I watched it, I was like, okay, I remembered it still being nighttime when we cut back to Ugg, so he hadn't been hanging there as long. I remember his scream being more blood-curdling and scared because I remembered it not being Donkey Lips, but I remembered it being Zeke the Plumber wandering towards Ugg.
Instead, it's not, and he's just angry.
Yes.
Donkulus is does a terrible. Why call him Donkulus? Like he's redonkulous.
Oh, see, that's cool. That's a cool name.
That's gotta be that's a great stage name.
But that is the end of the episode. You've kind of already given away how you feel. But how was your first experience with Salute Your Shorts?
I was forever impressed with 1991, 1989 through 1992, that time frame's obsession with shorts. Eating them, saluting them.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's I'm always glad when we have a moment captured so perfectly. Like, we got to put shorts in the title. Fucking kids won't shut up about shorts. Cereal shaped like shorts, all kinds of things you could have done. But I don't think it's one of the worst one of these I've watched. I just was confused. Like, I didn't know any of the characters, and it makes no attempt to tell me who they are. I figured out, like, no, Budnick's a bad one eventually.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when he was doing the story with which ones were supposed to be bad or they're all dicks. And then I realized the boring one would have been our Cypher, which that's always the case.
Yeah. That kid, just for your information, he is not on the show in season 2. He is gone, and he is replaced by another kid who is much cooler. And that kid went on, he's played by the actor Blake Soper, I think. And he went on to be like a guitarist or drummer or something in the Rilo Kiley band. Like, he's like a rock star now.
The Kylo Ren band. Cool.
Yeah. He's one of the Knights of Ren.
It's really emo.
Yeah. Emo metal.
What's their backstory? No one knows.
Yeah, but he gets replaced. So Michael just doesn't come back. They start season 2 and they're like, Michael just didn't come back, and and this new kid shows up. And
they should have buried him so hard. Like, that kid was a baby. He sucked his thumb. He had a hippo. We didn't like him anyways.
There was a big thing with it kind of reminds me of the long running show that we've watched every Christmas, the Rhapsody Street Kids. There's a subplot of that about a big sandwich that one of the kids is trying to keep with him, and there's a subplot in one of the episodes of the later Salute Your Shorts where Pinsky, the new kid who replaces Michael, has this big thing of pastrami, this big like pastrami log that he's carrying around eating on, and everyone's trying to get it.
I still like that Simpsons episode where Homer tries to eat that footlong, the big shareable sub for like a fucking 2 weeks straight.
He gets very sick from it.
Yes, they can't go to Duff Gardens.
I do want to wrap up this episode with a user review from IMDb about this episode, about Zeke the Plumber or the ghost story, whichever you prefer. And this might be hyperbole. I don't know. Maybe this person was very affected by this episode. Gave it 10 out of 10 stars. This review is from May of 2015.
Why did you decide to go on IMDb and write a review in May of 2015?
This is how it begins. This is one of the most horrifying looks for a movie monster ever presented.
No, it's not.
The vision of a burn victim wearing a stiff human mask and wig. I once saw a documentary about a poor soul whose face had been burned, leaving him without many facial features left. just something of a smooth, distorted visage, only capable of conveying a faint echo of the humanity within the man.
That is more thought than was ever given to this character.
A special effects artist created a realistic mask that resembled the burned man's face before his misfortune. The mask allowed him to go to the store and run errands around town without being subjected to the screams of terrified children or the piteous stares of his former friends. I love that he just completely is like, I got to tell you about this other guy that this happened to.
This person needs to watch Pin.
I thought about Zeke the Plumber, a war hero who served his country in the humid hell of the South Pacific, only to lose the sense of smell that might have prevented his disfigurement from a gas leak set ablaze. After returning to his duties as plumber and maintenance man at the children's camp, he was continuously subjected to the ungrateful children of privileged background, leering at his distorted state.
Boy, that wasn't brought up at all.
Being of meager means, he could only obtain a crude mask and wig that might let Zeke regain some of his humanity, or at least the children might not fear him, might not scream and flee at the sight of him. That sort of scorn, rage, and dehumanization can create a powerful curse, a curse that lives on in the nightmares of the children of Camp Anawana.
I do like that they snuck in the creepypasta into this middle of this IMDb comment section.
And that's it. That's the review.
This is either someone who, like I said, is should write a story about this on fanfiction.
I'm sure that they have.
They're the most empathetic person on the planet and have just completely made up this entire backstory of his character.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that this person only has quite a few they have only a few reviews.
All for burn victims.
Well,
did they review the movie Mask?
No, but they do review The Incredible Melting Man, and their review is titled "Haunted Me for Years."
I believe it did.
But I just love the passion and the thought that they put into this. I also like that they described Zeke as a war hero.
I imagine being the writer and people who worked on this episode and being like, we didn't do any of that. We just found the cheapest mask possible. We gave no thought to it.
But I mean, I obviously, it did affect me. I mean, this person enough to write this review out. And I'm so glad that they did it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful people.
But before we completely get out of here and head off into the woods to avoid Zeke the Plumber, we have to place this on our scale of weirdness. So, Skinner, we'll start with you. Where do you think this belongs on the scale of weirdness?
Gonna give this one a 4, but mostly for Budnick's hair.
Oh man, I'm very hurt by this. I guess this only being your only episode of this, your only exposure to Sawyer Shorts, it doesn't stand out as the peak of the show.
It literally is the show to me. The show was always this to me.
That's fair. It's not that. I would say that this deserves. I mean, I guess, as we're moving into the spooky season, it's less weird and more like spooky. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 because it still resonates with me. I still think that the Michael dream sequence is pretty creepy. I still think that telling a kid that you're going to put his head in your bucket is very deranged.
Inappropriate for older people in positions of power.
Yeah, sure. It's very weird for a camp counselor to tell his camper, one of his campers, that he's going to cut his head off. So
fair, yes.
Yeah, I will put that on. I will put that on the scale at a 7. But we're gonna wrap it up here. We are kicking off, as I said up front, we are kicking off our spooky season here on the show. We're gonna have a lot of fun things coming your way. We're gonna try to dip into a lot of the episodes that we remember from our youths. Maybe some fun. Maybe we'll do a couple of fun sitcom Halloween episodes. Maybe we'll step back in with Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps. We might even have some spooky guests join us. to talk about some things. So I'm very excited for the spooky season to get started. I'm very excited.
We should have Bo North on to do evil.
Oh, we should do that. Maybe we should have her on to do a Christmas episode, but we should do it also in like June.
Yes, that would time out very well.
But yeah, I'm excited for the spooky season to begin. I really love Halloween. I love this time of year. And just planning things out and figuring out what sort of things I'm going to do, what movies I'm going to watch, what my Halloween costume for work is going to be. It's a fun time, and I'm excited to kind of jump into these weird shows that
I can't wait for you to see your Budnick costume.
That's just my everyday wear, man.
No sleeves, party in the back.
That's right. But until next time, when we're keeping things very spooky around here, I've been Josh.
I've been your pants.
I'm scared out of them.
Yes. Well, you left them behind when you shit yourself in fear, and that's me. I'm your pants full of shit.
We want you to keep it weird.
Someone light a match.
You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at Weird Center. As always, thanks for listening. At the haunted house that I was at last night, there was a sign that they were selling diapers for when you shit yourself going through their mazes, except they spelled diapers wrong.
When you were talking about that in the summer, it being in summer, I really wanted a haunted bikini car wash.
Oh yeah. They're washing your car with blood.
Yes, but unfortunately, you need a real car wash after you're done because your car would be ruined.
And all their tits are dead and covered in maggots.
Never say dead tits on the podcast again.